meeting, information evening about the regional economy. It's so important to get the engagement of parents. We know from our surveys that parents are a big influence in talking to students about going forward, as well as their teachers, as well as people like Tarek. But parents in particular are the ones that often will give the nudge to go and seek out that other advice from experts like Tarek and progress coaches. You may be aware that there's a new government white paper requirement, an educational requirement for colleges, sixth forms, to be accountable, reportable on how they develop skills for meeting the needs of the economy. It was local economy. However, we know that our students go far and wide, and actually Ofsted took the word local out of that requirement because we know that our students go off all over the world. Obviously, we've got to focus in working with our local employers and stakeholders because they're the ones near us, and we like to have a lot to do with them. But we also know that our students may take that learning and go all over the place. That requirement doesn't worry us too much because it's something we've always very, very strongly believed in. It's not anything that we're going to need to do anything different about, but it is something that will, in future, whenever we get Ofsteded next, be something that is reported on. In my part of this introduction, I want to just sort of, I think, say three things, because I know that people won't take away too much from what I say, particularly once the other speakers get going. So I'm going to try and restrict it to three takeaway points that if you can remember them, then I'll feel successful. So we encourage students to develop a vision for the future. And by that vision for the future, what we mean is not the old-fashioned, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, that was the old sort of statement, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? But think about the sorts of things they want to do in the future. That's far more important than thinking about, I want to be an accountant, I want to be a lawyer. We want to get them to think about, I want to work with people, I want to work in this sort of way, I want to work flexibly, I want to work in the environmental area. That's a much better way of looking at it. And by long term, I mean not just thinking about after college. I've too many students, when we say what are you going to do after Long Road, they're only thinking about maybe the next summer or the next year. Some are only thinking about the next weekend. We know this, but thinking a little bit further ahead. So not saying I don't need to go to any of these careers events, I don't need to go to any of the things that Tarek and his team are putting on because I'm going to university. Well, university might seem like a lot, but it will go fairly quickly. So we want someone's muted me, I hope not deliberately. The second thing is question the myths about jobs and employers. Again, Tariq and his team and lots of subject areas get employers to come in, or we talk about employers, and students only see the very surface of what that company might do. I'll give you an example. One of the people we've got coming tomorrow for careers for the event is Turner's, the logistics and lorry company. When we talk to students about that, they say, but I don't want to be a lorry driver. Why would I go and talk to Turner's? I don't want to drive a lorry. Well, obviously, Turner's is a massive company with all sorts of jobs, HR, logistics. They want people that have got excellent math skills, that can do route planning, geotechnology and GPS and all sorts of things. You know, HR departments, accountants. They've got a lot of different jobs. It might only be the lorry drivers that you see driving the lorries with Turners on the side. That is not all that's to do with that company. So encourage your young people to go and talk to companies about what they do beyond just the surface. So that's the second thing. The third thing is about skills and helping students to recognize the skills that they are getting from their studies, but also from life generally, and how they might demonstrate those if asked. For example, and a lot of students don't get this, and however much we ask them, punctuality, being on time is a big skill. It's one of the skills that employers value massively, being on time. It's really, really important in the workplace. If they can demonstrate that they are organised and can be on time at college, and they can say, I was always on time, I never missed lessons, that is a massive skill. It's something that employers value. So they need to recognise and develop the skills, however basic those skills might seem. We're not talking about skills of widget making at this point. We're just talking about transferable key skills. How would they demonstrate them, and where would they fill any gaps that they might not be able to demonstrate at the moment? For example, teamwork. Can your young person say, yes, I can work in a team. I had to be part of a team when I was doing my film studies course. When we were filming, I took on the role of director. I learnt this about myself as a team member. That's the sort of question that is going to come up when being asked. How will you demonstrate that? So developing a long-term vision, not just thinking about the next step and thinking about what you want to do, not just what you want to be. Dispelling some of those myths and looking deeper into what companies actually do and the types of jobs, and then recognizing those skills that are being developed and any gaps they might have and how to demonstrate them. Those are my 3 takeaways, and I know that the speakers today, including Tarek in the role of the careers department here, will expand on all of those, I'm sure, and I'm thankful for all of them for making time this evening. Thank you, Tarek. I hope that's okay for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stephen, and good luck with the governors. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. So moving on. That's just on that. Yeah. Okay, so I just want to give a quick overview of what happens in terms of the career service that we provide at Long Road, just to give you a bit of context. I've only been here 4 months, but before me, we had brilliant careers work being done here by my predecessors, and we were able to achieve the quality in career standard, which is kind of objective measure of the breadth and the quality of what we provide, meeting what some of you may be aware of is called the Gatsby benchmarks. So the Gatsby benchmarks are the 8 benchmarks that have been set by government, which denote a good quality career service. So I won't go into them in detail, but if anybody wants to look that up, then it's worth looking at that. So as part of what we deliver, we use a tool called Unifrog, which some of you may be familiar with. Some schools use it. And we have introduced that to every student. Every student has an account. And that piece of software does a huge range of things for us. So first of all, it allows us to work on that aspect that Stephen mentioned about having a goal and a vision by increasing the students' self-awareness. So they can do various exercises on screen, doing personality, interest, and work environment quizzes. And through answering those questions, they build up a picture of themselves using a bit of psychometric testing, which gives them a good starting point. And from that, they can then generate a long list of careers, which might be a good fit for them based on the questions that they've answered. And then we work with them to look at some of the specifics and to create short lists and long lists and to try and explore then what the requirements are for those jobs. What are the skills requirements? What are the entry requirements? What are the working conditions? And all of these things that they can look at. So that helps them to decide whether an idea they already had in mind might still be the right idea, having discovered all of that information, or if there's something else, something new that they've never come across before that sparks their imagination that will help them to then explore a pathway to lead them in that direction. So it's all about trying to increase the awareness of the vast range of jobs that are out there. I keep telling young people that I meet regularly that, my dad had one job basically his whole life. I'm on my 3rd career, and they might have 5 or 6 careers. And, they may be completely different ones from each other, and they'll be having to retrain and learn new skills throughout the whole of their lives. because of the nature of technology and change and so on. So a really important aspect of that is, as Stephen also mentioned, employability skills, getting young people to understand what they are and how they can acquire them, and then how they can evidence them as well when they're applying for university or jobs. And to deliver all of that, we have a wide range of workshops. We're developing our tutorial program to build more careers activity into them as well. We organize employer and workplace visits. We've got several going on this week. We've got about 40 companies coming tomorrow to do a careers fair as well. And we are regularly sent requests from employers to advertise various job and apprenticeship vacancies. And to top it all, we also provide bespoke one-to-one careers guidance for those students that really need it as well. They also get support from progress coaches, but on top of that, the careers advisors, myself and my colleague Emma, will give them one-to-one careers guidance if they need that. So I hope that's a good introduction summary. And I'm going to now move on to our one of our key speakers, which is Laura Geimer, who is going to tell us a little bit more about the makeup of the region and the role that apprenticeships play, and she will explain why that's important. So over to you, Laura.
Thanks, Tarek. Good afternoon, everyone. Very brief introduction. My name is Laura Geimer and I work for the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority. I'm responsible for our strategic careers information. In context to that, the Combined Authority has been set up to look after several devolved budgets we have from central government along the lines of housing, transport and education, and we're responsible for the growth of the economy and economic development within the region. Hope that gives you some idea of where this sort of messaging is coming from. Thanks, Tarek. Can you pop the slide? Sorry. So in terms of the regional economy, we have a raft of data that comes into us on a monthly basis that we look at to identify trends and to see what's happening across the region. And I thought it might be useful to share some of that with you. First of all, looking at employment trends, it's an interesting time at the moment. And I think sort of the COVID we're seeing economic trends because of COVID that we haven't previously seen before, and huge jumps when we're looking at year-on-year information. I think added to that, the sort of current political context, Brexit, etc. It really is an interesting place to be looking at data at the moment. So I think it would be fair to say Cambridgeshire and Peterborough has a strong regional economy. We can see 145% increase year on year, which is obviously, against the backdrop of COVID. Back in November 2021, we saw the highest volume of vacancies that we've seen in the last 10 years across the region. So fair to say a really, really buoyant labour market. And, one of the things we've identified across the area is actually if we go forward with projections that we're seeing at the moment, we are going to get to a point where there's not enough people in the labour market to actually satisfy the jobs that we're seeing advertised at the moment. And sort of year on year, a huge increase. We saw 226% more jobs advertised this year than we did last year. Can I have the next slide, please, Tarek?
Can I just check before we go on? Some people can't see the slides. Can everyone else see the slides? Yep. Okay, so it might be a local problem, I'm afraid. So we'll carry on. Continue.
Thanks, Tarek. So in regards to employment trends, this slide shows a trend of how different industries are recovering from COVID-19. Every single sector on there is higher than pre-COVID levels. So we're seeing growth across all areas at the moment. And this is in line with a national trend. So I'm sure everybody's seen what's in the news at the moment about the sort of rate of jobs that are being advertised, reflected in this region as well. Our highest recruiting sectors at the moment sit around transport and storage, accommodation and food, and real estate. And I think it's important we take the context of this as was given a moment ago when we were introduced. Whilst they're the highest recruiting sectors, the job roles that exist within those sectors are vast. And if we think about core functional areas that sit across all of those, so whether it's accountancy, it's HR, it's management, They are our sectors that are seeing the most growth, but the job roles are very, very varied. Do you have the next slide, please, Tarek? So across the region, we have at the Combined Authority what we call our key employment sectors. These are predominantly our 4 growth sectors, which sit around life sciences, advanced manufacturing, digital and automated, it will come to me in a moment, AI, and agri-tech. And then we have what we call our 4 foundational sectors, which are logistics, construction, health and social care, and education. This is where we see predominance of growth and the predominance of jobs that are advertised. But it's really important we recognise that this is actually only 20% of the jobs across the whole of the region. And when we look at some of these companies or these sectors, the companies that operate within them are large employers within our area. SMEs make up 96% of the employers across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. So we see and micro businesses as well. So we see a lot of organisations that won't necessarily appear within our recruitment statistics just due to the size of the business. And then when we look at businesses by industry with the highest volume of jobs, and this is specific to Cambridge, our professional, scientific and technical make up 16.8% of that. And when we map that across to our growth sectors, that sits predominantly across our life sciences. Construction follows in at 13%, with information and communication, and again, directly correlating across to our digital and AI sectors. We then see business administration and support and transport and storage as the next industries where we find the highest volume of jobs. Can I have the next slide, please, Tarek? I thought it would be interesting to give you an idea of the companies that have been the most prominent in their recruitment over the last, I believe it's probably the last 12 months on this, and then the common skills that our employers are reporting that they need. So when we look at the top companies posting, I think the first thing to take away is that 5 of these top posters are actually recruitment agencies. So when our young people are looking for jobs, it's really, really important to look at where they are going to be finding those jobs. So yes, there are our large employers are recruiting, and we can see on here NHS is the highest recruiter across the area. And I think later on we've got Lorraine and Bryony that are joining us from the NHS. And they do a lot of good work through their It's All Coming Together website, followed by the University of Cambridge. We then go into a number of different recruitment agencies, and then into AstraZeneca and Restan. So I don't think there's anything there we wouldn't expect to see. But when it comes to recruitment agencies, I think for our young people, they need to appreciate the additional support they will get through looking for jobs through recruitment agencies. So recruitment agencies will support in making sure they are interview ready, will be there to offer information, advice and guidance as well. So please do engage with recruitment agencies as and where is appropriate. And then when we come across to common skills, these are the skills that employers are reporting that they need, is in most demand, and the frequency that we see these within jobs postings are how we've sort of quantified this information. So communication skills sit at the forefront of this, followed by management, customer service, research, sales. You can see what's on there. But I think what's really important with this is when we are speaking to our young people around preparing for interviews and demonstrating what it is they have previously achieved, they need to start thinking about the types of activities they've been involved in that gives them communication skills, that allows them to show leadership, that allows them to demonstrate when they've been researching. So when we think about these skills, we think about what employers need, contextualize it to the backdrop of what young people have been doing and exposed to through their school life and within their personal time as well. Can I have the next slide, please, Tarek? So moving on to apprenticeships, there's been a huge amount of work that's gone on over the last, probably the last 15 years into apprenticeships, but the technical education reforms, which go back beyond 2019, but sort of came to the forefront in 2019, was really around bringing focus to technical education and the pathways and routeways into employment that can offer for us. So the technical reforms have been aligned to employer needs, and our apprenticeship standards have been built and developed in conjunction with employers. So they give young people or anyone, actually, they're not age dependent, that goes through an apprenticeship, real transferable skills that are aligned and tied to the occupation that they are training in. And I think as well, when we think about apprenticeships, it's important to take into account some of the myths and some of the preconceptions people probably have. So apprenticeships historically will build an image of trades, of time served, of learning a craft. It's really important to think about now we have over 520 different apprenticeship standards across numerous occupations, and those apprenticeship standards range from a level 2 to a level 7. When we try and take that back to what that means in academic terms, you're looking from GCSE to postgraduate level up to PhD. I say that with the caveat that we can't map everything in its entirety back to an academic qualification, because once we get into the workplace, we are looking at their experience within certain job roles and their exposure to certain functions within job roles. But in broadest terms, a level 2 to a level 7 are where our apprenticeship standards sit. And the range of qualifications, or the range of areas that young people can go into, is vast. They range from working sort of as a zoologist to a solicitor to a whole host of different occupations within STEM industries, from construction, accountancy. The list is vast. And I think with this, what we need to sort of also take into account is the route way that your young person wants to get to ultimately to their end job. Apprenticeships will give them the opportunity to learn and earn a wage whilst they're doing it, not necessarily picking up the fees that they would get through going to university, but coming out with a degree at the end of it. They will also get the work experience that their peers won't necessarily have going down a university experience. And I'm not saying apprenticeships or universities, one is better than the other. They're different, and it's worth us acknowledging the differences within that. We did a webinar with an accountancy organisation probably in February time, and they spoke about the pathway that a young person would go through if they wanted to become an accountant going to university, and then again if they did it as an apprenticeship. And actually the only real difference that sat with that was a year in terms of study, but the person on the apprenticeship programme had got 4 years of experience in that time. Their advice there to people that come and speak to them is, consider what university is going to give you that an apprenticeship isn't. Consider what it is you're going for. And they always say to people, you know, if you want to do a degree in accountancy, or you want to become an accountant, perhaps look at doing a degree in something else and then doing your accountancy post-university. So look to go for that university experience, but actually what we can do on the job works out for us in our sector to be more effective. So consider what the apprenticeship may be, and consider what your young person's end goal is. And I think it's worth noting that many employers offer apprenticeship programs with application windows. So it's important to identify when those application windows are. Are they rolling programs? Are they in line with an academic year? And start to have a look at when you need to be looking at applying for apprenticeships. I had a quick look yesterday, and currently there's 75 apprenticeships advertised in Cambridge, and 56 of those sit at the advanced, higher or degree level. So there's numerous options out there, but it really is just worth looking and seeing as to what would be appropriate for your young person. Question that's just come in there. There is find an apprenticeship on the .gov site, and that allows you to filter by geographic area, by sector, by level, and you can start to really move the data around. So on that, you can look at within a certain mile radius. You can start to have a look at, you know, outside of the region. But the information on there is current and it's up to date. However, whilst all employers are encouraged to put their vacancies on there, I have noticed that not all apprenticeship vacancies do go on there. So if there is a particular employer you're perhaps interested in understanding what they do, I would say go and have a look at the early careers part of their website. So again, within our local area, I know that employers such as Morgan Sindall, University of Cambridge, Travis Perkins, the NHS, all offer apprenticeships. When we expand that and go slightly outside of area, and this was specifically within STEM, I had a look, there's KPMG offer at a degree level apprenticeship programme, Capgemini do, EE do, Army, Navy, RAF, they all do, Anglian Water do. So there's a lot of opportunity within quite a tight radius of where we are. Can I have the next slide, please, Tarek? I've got some data here. I'm not going to go massively into it. It will be in your slide deck, but this is just to give you an indication of the level of apprenticeship delivery we have across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. And I think just picking out the pie chart for an example here, we have predominance of apprenticeships that sit actually at level 3. So it gives you a nice feeder into a skills escalator of progression within a career. So a certain employer might not necessarily offer a level 3, a level 4, 5, etc. But actually, once you get that level 3 exposure and experience, it allows you to move on within that job role and look to see where other apprenticeship opportunities may exist or influence, the employer you're in with. If they've done level 3 qualifications, the chances are that they will look to do 3s, 4s, etc. And then again, just below here, we've got the starts by subject sector areas. And again, that relates very much across to what we identified in the earlier slide as our key priority sectors. I think that's possibly it, Tarek. Can we just check there's not another? So yeah, the only other slide I've got in here, and again, you'll get this in your slide deck, are links into further information. So we have regional labour market information. It's a self-serve portal. You may find it very useful. But within here, there are lots of links into various apprenticeship support, technical education support, and information about the regional area. I am hanging around on this and will be here for the question and answers section, but thank you all very much for your time. I hope it gives you food for thought, and I hope to speak with you later.
Thank you very much, Laura. That was brilliant. Great overview with really interesting detail as well. So nobody has to remember all of this. We are going to send you copies of the slides as well. So don't worry if you don't take everything in at this stage. So next, I'm going to invite Sylvie Russell to give us an introduction to green jobs. Green jobs are something that are very important to us at Long Road, and we're going to be encouraging our students to look at all the issues around net zero and climate change. So over to you, Sylvie.
Thanks, Tarek. Good afternoon, everyone. As Tarek mentioned, I'm Sylvia Russell, Head of Operations. What does that mean? Actually, it means that I'm just here to make sure that everything goes smoothly for the team and for our members. So sometimes the title is big titles, but actually I'm using my skills as a mum to run the team. So to give you an idea of transferable skills. And Cambridge Clean Tech, we are a networking organization. We've been based in Cambridge for the last 10 years. We are connecting people for a smarter, more sustainable future. Means that we're working with innovators, SMEs, corporates, universities, and investors, making sure that the right opportunities arise for anyone in the clean tech sector. And the clean tech sector is all about green jobs. But what does that mean? Clean tech, climate tech is word that we're using quite a lot at the moment. Well, actually, it means something that is low carbon, renewable, and good for the environment. To put you into context, you have, last year we here in the UK in Glasgow was COP26. We have recommendations of zero carbon by 2050. The UK government, and I invite you to follow that link, the 10-point action plan to create 250,000 green jobs. And these green jobs are related to Windshore, actually at the moment, the UK is leading in windshore techniques, and they want to be able to carry on and quadruple that by 2030. Hydrogen, we need energy transition, so that's another one. Nuclear, there are quite specific high-tech sectors and skills, but you also have to think about the green transport. We're thinking about our houses. How do we make them low carbon? How do we retrofit them? So all of this is part of the 10-point action plan from the UK government. There is also a very other big ambition, and I'm sure that is reflecting into the universities, the sixth forms, and even now in schools, is to become a global hub for innovation. So we are also looking for new ideas, new thinker to be able to create tomorrow's world. Next slide, please, Tarek. So, I mean, with over 4,000 companies in our database, I thought it would be easier just to give you a little example of what green jobs can be. So we're talking about energy transition, and we have to think about how to make this more efficient. So local company here, for example, Polysolar. If you go North Cambridge on King's Edges Road, you will see a building that is not very nice from the outside. It's grey, it's in concrete, but it has windows. These ones are orange, that are actually solar panels. And they are developing a lot of different techniques to make sure that the solar panels are not just on your roof, but can be into your, any type of big buildings. Equion Technology, it's a startup that was out from the Cambridge University. They're looking at new battery, the ion batteries for cars. By 2030, the UK will stop producing fuel cars, so we need to think about what's the next step, and the race is already there. Cubo in semiconductors, they're looking at the lights and how new LED lights can be there. So that's quite technical skills. On the other hand, you have Zedify. You may have seen them around Cambridge. They have their cargo bike, but what do? Well, they actually deliver for the last mile. So they will receive orders from big carriers. They will put them outside Cambridge, repackage them so the trucks are not going into the city, and they will come and deliver it to your door or to the stores. So that last mile is reducing traffic, reducing carbon, and make it better for everyone. I've also put a few examples of other things such as the Faraday's, so it's electrical plane. We have Camfridge that is looking at having low carbon refrigerations. I mean, with the heat today, we're thinking, okay, how can we make it cooler? But if we make it cooler, we need to use more electricity and we need to use more carbon. So they have solutions for that. And in terms of circular economy, Kanban is also one of the companies that can create from leftover from rice and from rice or corn, and they will make new packagings and create new products. So that's for the innovator side. To go quickly, you also have big names here in Cambridge, and some of them may not, as Tarek mentioned earlier, they are not a truck, or they are using lots of different things, willing that company to be more sustainable. So I will look at what type of how the employees are going to work. Are they using low carbon transport? If they're buying a new building, is it a building that can be retrofitting? How can we make it more efficient? So all these questions are not just in very technical jobs, they are in our everyday, day-to-day work. A new, the waste treatment, to quickly, also new development in Cambridge. So the site developer Ton, you and I are looking now at creating a completely new green housing in the North Cambridge to replace the water treatment. And they came to us and said, look, we need to look at new solutions, new innovators. How can we make that environmental with green jobs, making it friendly for a better world. So that's the way we do things. So it's very, very vast. And you will also see some of the skills repeated with the other speakers that we will hear from tonight. And there are a lot of crossover. Thanks. So the pathway to green jobs, I think every jobs nowadays have to be greener. But just to give you an example, there are new rules. So when I was studying 25 years ago, it was all about quality. So it was all about ISO qualities norms and manufacturing applying that, and that's what I study. But nowadays, it's not about necessarily about ISO. It's the new thing is about how to become sustainable. So we need people in each company, in each shop, thinking clearly how to make it more sustainable. So that's a new role. You will have people who will have to study the data, analyze it, and make it better. You will have lawyers, accountants that will need to be thinking green. Analysts, engineering, any type of engineering will also have skills that can be transposed into the sector. Architect, we need to build new city. How do we build them? We need to renovate. How do we renovate whilst following the guidance of a zero carbon world? And we also need people that will look at the packaging, how to replace packaging. So that's part of the design, marketing, communications. All of this, you have an opportunity to make an impact for the environment. Thinking outside the box, innovators, there are quite a lot of investment at the moment. So if your young person has an idea and is weaving, making it low carbon, why not push him or her to become someone who will make a difference by creating their own companies? In terms of universities, I mean, I've just put here the local one. Some of them will already integrate some of the skills that are needed for a green job. I've noticed even for big tech construction, so even from year 10 to year 11 in the construction side, I was really pleased to see that they are talking about new materials to be able to be more energy efficient. So it's already in the curriculum. There is a lot to be done. ARU and Glenroskin Universities has launched an apprenticeship for sustainable officers. It's based in Peterborough, so that might be worth exploring. Check their website. And just to conclude, yeah, we have to, it's a new world. We have to make it better. The jobs of tomorrow are not necessarily yet here, but your young people will have the choice to have, to have these transferable skills that will allow them to make sure that they grow within their roles, but they can also change and make a difference. So to everyone, don't panic. I know it's very hard to choose for your kids, but it will be fine, and it will be all okay. Sorry, I'm just, and if you have any questions, just please do contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvie. It's really, really exciting area, this, and we're looking forward to working with our young people on this whole on the whole challenge of net zero. We're going to be introducing an environmental science A-level next year as well. I believe we're going to see what the level of interest is in that. So moving on, I'd like to now invite Mark Rayner, who's the CEO of Cambridge Wireless. Really pleased to have you with us today, Mark. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Tarek, and good evening, everybody. I am the CEO of Cambridge Wireless, and what do we do here? Well, we've been in existence for over 22 years, and we've seen everything digital coming at us. We started on our journey with 2G and 3G in the wireless world, and the digital world is something that I think all of us, and especially all of us, can actually kind of think about, because it's global, it's ubiquitous, and it's the delivery of what we actually do. Data is king. There's a significant opportunity for young people to actually take their iPhones and their tablets and actually convert them into kind of a job for life. We are not moving away from the data economy. We're not moving away from the digital economy. It's growing, and there's some significant ideas and opportunities for young people to really get themselves, equipped for the future. They're actually kind of engineers and technicians, but they don't know it at the moment, because I'm sure that they can actually operate laptops and mobile phones better than anybody. And most of them are actually probably looking at coding or doing some really cool stuff. If your children have been in Minecraft or Roblox, then basically what happens is that they're early coders. And these are the skills that will actually increase, and it's a really good opportunity where there's a dearth of people, and there's a real opportunity to drive their careers. Now, just to go on to a slide which was rather quick, Tarek, was that we have an active community, but think about, we talk about wireless, but think about digital. Look at all of the people that we actually have in our members network. We have over 400 international and national clients. 30% of our members are in Cambridge, 70% of those members are outside of Cambridge and international, and we're represented in 17 different countries, just as a membership organisation. So if you have a look at where does digital kind of lead us? Well, broadcasters, BBC and Sky, they're always looking for people, creatives, all the way through to software and hardware engineers. And we go to testing, and that's another area for people who like physics and also kind of want to get into the digital side. We've got rapid scale-ups that are going Geospot, Prowler and Sensat. And then we look at our vertical markets, think about cars, going to EVs and hydrogen, think about the autonomous world that's going to be here in the next 20 to 30 years. Think about the rail industry, and think about the engineering and the applied engineering corporates that will actually require people to actually come to them with digital skills. And we look at the network operators. We take it for granted that we actually transfer and move data and voice around. But what we don't realize is that it's the backbone of our economy. There's specific value to actually, kind of working inside a network operator as well, because they're not going anywhere. They're pretty much significant in terms of the national security opportunity, but they have maximum ability to actually take a young person in apprenticeships and actually get them through to becoming the best of the best through the world. And it's a transferable skill globally. In terms of, can we go back, please? In terms of equipment and component supplies, they're really also important. These are the guys that actually make the software work. And then the people in the middle, the embedded people, the Qualcomms, the ARMs, the Samsungs, the NECs, they're the ones that make the chips that make everything work. That's the heartbeat of the digital economy. So just think of the view of a global opportunity for a young person to actually dive into many, many different industries, use one skill set that they learn at 18 to 22, and actually then put them into different opportunities that then they will move industry over 20 to 30 years. Next slide, please, Tarek. So really, what are I've got critical skills for the digital economy, what we see today and what will be really, really prevalent in the next 10 years. Data scientists are extremely, extremely rare. It's a growing opportunity for universities. We create data sets upon data sets, and we collect that data, but we don't actually know how to actually use it. And it's not about collecting the raw data in one area. It could be in healthcare, it could actually be in transport, it could be in a number of opportunities. AI and ML specialists are going to be absolutely, kind of core for us as individuals. We're using AI and ML now where you don't actually see it, and most of it's in transport and healthcare today. Telecommunication engineers, really, really important. It sounds like it's an old tradition, but it's actually a tradition that actually young people could get into for a very long career, because it's gone from copper to fiber, and from fiber to satellites into space and back down to ground. Just think that's a huge opportunity. A specific Python programmers, Today, you can't find one. If you can code and you can go do Python, you're kind of sought after. So think about the types of industries where, because of data and digital, software programmers will need to come from, and with a certain experience. And last but not least is the semiconductor engineers. Those guys that are making the hardware to make everything else work. We have a very nascent semiconductor industry in the UK, and it's led by the US and by Taiwan, in part by China, but Europe and the UK are looking to be a significant player in this field over the next 10 to 20 years to take the reliance off outside parties to actually make your phones work. They're looking for all grades, everything from a PhD to apprentices, and it's really, really important. As Cambridge Wireless, we've been here 22 years. We are an authority on lots of different items, academic and industry, IoT, artificial intelligence. It's here for you to all read. But the important thing is that data and digital and wireless aren't going away. They're going to increase in speed. We've got 5G on the rollout now, and I'm, as the CEO of CW, we're now looking at 6G and space. So it's a really, really important and interesting time for everybody to actually think about, where do you future see yourself? What do you see? Smart cities? Do you see how you live in differently? Will your children be in a different environment, and how will they connect? And that leads you to one answer, and that is to actually think about the technologies and the services that wrap that future up. And that's where your children might want to look at going to and exploring. And CW offers kind of opportunities to actually get people digitally skilled. So that is it from me, and I hope that was helpful.
Thank you very much, Mark. That was really, really interesting. And you could probably tell from my random slide transition that I'm not a digital native, so I may not be entering that workforce very soon. But thank you very much. And I look forward to talking to you more about how we can promote some of these roles with young people as well. So moving on. So next we have Professor Mario Kakama, who's the Chief Executive Officer of NIAB. So over to you, Mario.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I am leading NIAB. NIAB is more than 100 years old. I feel a bit old when other people have been talking about 20 years old. But we have been around in Cambridge for more than 100 years working on the ag sector and the agricultural sector. Perhaps the point I wanted to start by making is that I would like to make sure that I can persuade you today that working in agriculture doesn't mean being a farmer, right? But the kind of underlying presentation is something very much aligned with the previous speakers, is that we are living through a time of change, and that change will affect the way we produce and consume food. We need to grow more food, clearly, because we have a growing population. We need to make sure that the food is nutritious, is as well available to a larger population, because we want to be fair in the way we consume food, because food is very important. We need to do it on a daily basis. Actually, agriculture has been the most significant event in human history, because it has transformed the way we can now rely on available food to be able to do other things like arts, and technology, right? But of course, the challenge today is we need to do this at the same time that we are under the threat of climate change. We need to produce food that needs to be, using, if you like, less pesticides. We want to make sure that we preserve the wildlife and biodiversity, and at the same time make sure that we reduce the emissions from agriculture. And of course, we want to do all this without having to export, if you like, all this potential damaging effect from food production. Now, this is just to set the scene, but as well trying to bring into the attention how many different skills we need to bring together to be able to match this very important challenge we all have. And it has been actually very much recognized by the government. And when I say the government, it's actually the full political spectrum, where we want to make sure that we work towards reducing emissions across the economy, and in particular when it comes to agriculture. Now, the reason why NIAB exists is actually to support growers to adopt new technologies. That's why we very much understand all the skills that you need to bring together to support them to produce food in a sustainable way. Before I move to the next slide, I would like to spell what NIAB means. NIAB historically means National Institute of Agricultural Botany, right? And we are based in Cambridge, and as I said, we've been more than 100 years working very closely with innovators in the sector. Now, in terms of the skills we need to consider for the sector, and just trying to make sure that I can persuade you that it's not just about being farmers only, right? We, of course, grow in the UK arable crops. This is wheat, barley, potatoes, but as well, we are very strong on horticultural crops. But overall, we import 50% of all the food we consume in the UK, which actually makes us particularly vulnerable, and it's something which we need to recognize in the current times we are living in, where global instability has actually make access to food more difficult. Of course, for a country like the UK, probably will be able to continue accessing food, but the fact that we are highly dependent on imports is something which we should reflect upon. Right? But of course, there are other aspects of growing crops and growing plants that are very important for our daily living. We use it for entertainment, for example. There are part of our public parks are part of the places we use to do sports and to attend if you like sports as well. They're part as well of what we need to understand in terms of improve planting of new trees, making sure that we make living in cities more bearable. And we can consider this today a very hot day, and I was listening to the radio that one way of managing temperature in cities is about planting trees and understanding how we can plant the right species to make sure that they develop well is part of what we do, is part of understanding agronomy. But it's as well about designing, it's about planning, it's about urbanization, it's about how we can, for example, manage other aspects of the environment, like, for example, motorways, right? And of course, behind all this, because these are all very important businesses, there will be other aspects in terms of advisory, in terms of management, in terms of legal services that will be growing around the agri-tech sector. Now, in terms of kind of summarizing, and it's going to be only in 5 minutes, but I'll be happy to answer many questions later on. When it comes to the sector, if you like, from farm to fork, in terms of the skills, we need to understand how we can grow new varieties. And there is a very kind of interesting aspect of science around crops, which is called plant breeding, which is actually very cool. And I like to tell you more later on if you are interested in. We do have as well a very important work on laboratories, right? We work with life science. We do have people that can manage plants in glass houses, and we need to understand how we operate them, but as well how we manage diseases, right? And plant pathology is a very important aspect of the space we are working on. And increasingly, we see much more in terms of the businesses and investment in the sector, right? Of course, if you're going to be working in the sector, you need to make sure that you can market your products, and there is a very strong drive towards, if you like, marketing skills. We need to audit the process we put in place, and of course, we need to work with insurers as well. But one point I was mentioned before is data science, and data science is a bit of the career of the future, and I wanted to as well explain that this applies to agriculture as well. We see more and more people flying, for example, drones to map their fields and understand how different crops perform. We need to, of course, write software that could then interpret those images that we collect, and we can analyze the performance of the crops and therefore make informed decisions. But of course, if you go beyond that and you look into the full food supply chain, you will involve packers, you will involve food safety professionals, and all these will be underpinned by a very strong argument around logistics. Now, the next slide is very much to finalize my presentation, is to give you a bit of an overview with few images of the type of activities we have around what we do in agriculture. Of course, it's very important that we have people that can work in the fields, and some people love that. And this is few images from one recent event we have in Cambridge, in where we actually have some members of government attending this event, and we have the chance to demonstrate these different skills. On the right-hand side, you see this picture of a drone flying over a field. What this drone is, this case, in doing is mapping, if you like, the potential of the yield for that particular field that will be used, as part of the decision making for, in this case, the grower to be able to sell the production of his field. I wanted to as well highlight the UK strategy for agricultural technology. This is something that is available online if you Google this title, and it will give you a deeper, if you like, overview in how government sees the future of the ag sector in terms of all the skills and all the challenges we see. Now, the last three pictures at the bottom, one is about wine, and it's interesting to mention that we are now producing wine in the UK, and it's something which we have done in partnership with some of the industry and trying to make sure that they understand how they can grow vineyards in the UK, which is new, to produce good quality wine. The one in the middle is one of our strawberry varieties. It's called Molin Centenary, and it's again showing that through the process of breeding, we can generate new varieties that in this case have been very successful in the UK. And the final picture on the right-hand side is a picture of someone working with different pathogens in the lab. And the intention here is to be able to deliver new genetics that can produce crops that are resistant to pathogens, in particular in the context of climate change. As was discussed before for some of the other speakers, we will need to face the fact that there will be new diseases for the crops we grow in the UK, and understanding how we can manage that. And at the same time, reducing the need of pesticides is a very important part of our work. Now, before I finish, I wanted to tell you very briefly about myself, because I'm actually a computer scientist, and now being able to now lead an institute that is very focused on agriculture shows you, if you like, how different skills are very important for the sector I'm working on. And as someone told me once, if you love what you do, you will never need to work in your life, right? And this is very much what I try to use as my motto and the ethos of the work we do in our sector. Thank you very much, Tariq, and I'm happy to answer any question later on. Thank you.
Sorry, Mario. Thank you very much for that. That was great. And now we have a double act, which is always nice. And we've got Michael and James, I believe, talking to us about construction from Bidwell's. We are running a bit behind time, so if you can try and keep to about 5 minutes, that would be great. You've got a lot of information in your slides as well, so we can share that later with people. So over to you.
Thank you, Tariq, and we'll keep it short and simple. If you can go to the next slide, please. The next one after that. So just as a quick introduction, I'm Michael Buttress, the project manager for Bidwell's. I'm also part of the CFCI, the Young Ambassador crew that are in Cambridge that try and influence younger people into construction. That's done by various ways through careers fairs and trying to reach out to younger audience. At the minute, the construction industry doesn't always have that inroads with the colleges and the like, so we're trying to progress that further. Sitting next to me is my colleague James, and he'll introduce himself.
Thank you, Michael. My name is James Burke. I'm assistant project manager at Bidwell's. I've been working here for 3 years, following leaving A-levels and starting a degree apprenticeship. I'm in my final year at Anglia Ruskin University, studying building surveying, which is very interesting, and it's nice to join an industry that's starting to progress with young talent. If you go to the next slide, please.
So just a little bit about Bidwell's. We're a company that primarily operate in what's classed as the Golden Triangle of London, Cambridge and Oxford. There's over 500 people working for us in 20 different specialist teams. Bidwell's has been around for over 185 years, and we've currently got 13 offices in the UK. If you go to the next slide, please. So as a bit of an industry update, during the COVID pandemic, 2020 hit the construction industry very hard, with overall output declining by over 46% year on year in April 2020 due to the strong enforcement of the measures to stop the spread of the disease. However, there's also been a strong recovery, with the construction output in the United Kingdom reaching positive growth rates every month since March 2021. As you can see, there's a couple of facts on there that over the last 6 months, there's approximate 2.9% of growth. Just as a specialist sector that we involved in quite heavily, which is the laboratory real estate, in and around Cambridge and Oxford, you can see quite clearly that during the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, the output was around 50 million, which is, as you can see, is increased significantly over the last 8 quarters, and is still predicted to grow further and further. A lot of businesses are now investing in the expertise that's around these key areas of the UK, which keeps us in the construction industry busy to be able to provide those spaces for them.
Within the construction industry, there are many jobs, roles, opportunities. At the moment, we're currently facing a skills shortage. What we mean by that is just a lack of qualified people available in relation to vacant job roles. This is mainly as a result of retirement, with 1 in 5 people approaching their retirement age. We're seeing that quite a lot of people in the construction industry are those who have been here for quite a long time and stick at it for their entire life. So this shift from the retirement is now making way for younger talent to come in and take those roles. This can be in both on-site and professional office roles, for example, Michael and myself. But at the moment, we're seeing fewer people entering to replace those who are leaving retirement. So companies like Bidwell's offering degree apprenticeships and graduate schemes are really helping with that. We wish to change the perception of the industry and encourage young people to develop their careers, offer new opportunities. There are more companies offering degree apprenticeships and it's encouraging to see those pathways being provided and the stepping stones to allow people to enter the industry. One notable thing is about diversity. I think the construction industry has a reputation that it's male dominated, and statistically that isn't far off. The skill shortage in construction might be in part down to the demographics feeling like the industry isn't a place for them. However, as you can see, that, for example, female uptake is increasing, with 15% of the UK construction industry being women. You can see that there are schemes being put in place for women in construction to encourage them to come in. It's also 37% of the new entrants and from higher education are women, which is very encouraging to see, because it's not just one group that can offer one skill, it's many groups that offer different skills. So I think it needs to be provided, and it's not only Bidwell's that are doing that, it's all companies within the local area, within the construction industry.
So what's also quite interesting about James and I is neither of us came out of sixth form college and went straight into a full-time uni course. I personally went into direct employment. James went into an apprenticeship degree here with Bidwell's, and together we're both involved over £1 billion worth of construction projects at the minute in and around Cambridge. It shows that you don't need to select the uni route to get into the roles that we're in. There are other opportunities in the industry, in the area, that people can take to make their way up into higher positions, more responsibility, more money, and can really change the way that Cambridge and other cities around the UK look and work, from a demographic perspective, from a industry perspective, and from a sustainability perspective. If you can go to the next slide, please. There's just a couple of our examples of projects that one of them is currently in progress on site, close to finishing in August, and the other is the Cambridge Mosque, this cutting edge sustainable mosque that's built down Mill Road in Cambridge. I'm sure some of you have seen it and driven past it. They're both jobs that Bidwell's are involved in. You go to the next slide, please. So James Burke is sat next to me. He won the Apprentice of the Year award in the Cambridge area last year due to his efforts in the industry and showing his drive to move the industry forward. James will speak about his career.
Yeah, I came straight out of A-levels, did 2 weeks work experience at Bidwell's, which was a great opportunity, with 1 week in project management and 1 week in building surveying, which kind of shows the split in 2 different roles that are offered, which are similar yet different at the same time. Gave a variety of opportunities. Then following the work experience, I was offered a job as an apprentice project manager, which I started in August 2019, and then a month after that, started studying my degree. And I've recently been promoted to assistant project manager, and as Michael said, won Apprentice of the Year within Cambridge, which is a career highlight at the moment. And I'm due to graduate in summer 2023, so it shows it's a quick turnaround in terms of getting a degree and the amount of opportunity and experience you have, because experience is one thing that speaks highly in the industry, and you get so many transferable skills that can go on to anything, not only within construction, but within many different career paths. I think that's us done. Hopefully it was within 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. That was great. And it's great to see a fantastic example of an effective apprenticeship in action, and also see a Long Road alumnus there as well. So thank you very much for that. And now I'm handing over to David Carrington from Domino Printing Services to talk about manufacturing.
Cool. Thank you, Tarek. Good evening, everybody. If you move to the next slide, Tarek, I'll start off. I've got 3 slides to share with you all. I'll try and make it brief. I know it's a lot to take in. So yeah, I work for Domino Printing Sciences. We're based in Cambridge, but as you can see here from the first slide, we've actually got a global network, not only of distributors, but also of manufacturing sites where we do a lot of research and development. We've also got ink manufacturing sites, as well as making the printers. We also make the ink. So you will appreciate, if you've got small printers at home that you use with your computers, that technology was made available thanks to our founder, who managed to figure out how to manipulate ink in 3-dimensional space, cause it to attach to a substrate and not damage the product. So back in the early 70s, I think, for some of us that might remember, or who were around, the only way to print was by contact, and that was either by stamping, pressing, or rolling. So as you can imagine, when you look at a lot of the foods that we now have in our supermarkets, the medicines, the drinks, you literally could not impact that product without damaging it. So coming up with a technology to create continuous inkjet meant that the supermarkets around in the early 70s could start to stock their shelves with product that was not damaged. You will probably notice down in the bottom left some of the products that we do code and mark. Some of the customers there at the bottom as well. We sell coding and marking equipment into them. You'll be probably surprised to hear that everything that is consumed, certainly in the Western world, such as food, liquid, even cigarettes and beverages, carries a unique code. That code is a legal requirement to allow supermarkets to sell. We distribute and sell into all of those sectors. The code is only used should there be a problem. So when you hear perhaps about a batch of eggs being recalled from a certain region because they may have a problem with them, then it's our code that is used to trace and pull that stock back in. We started off in Cambridge. It was early 70s when our founder, Graham Minto, discovered how to, as I say, manipulate ink in 3-dimensional space. The product grew. He attended a packaging expo in Germany, and the reason why we have the name Domino is that he exhibited packaging with the Domino 3 from a domino pack, and that was to show potential buyers that we could produce ink in straight lines with corners, but also in dots, so we could format a dot matrix code, which some of you might notice on some of the products that you have. Okay, second slide, please, Tarek. We're very people focused. There are nearly 3,000 of us globally within Domino. Within our headquarters in Cambridge, which is where this photograph was taken, there's around 700. Obviously, we couldn't squeeze them all in to this photo, but the people you see here represent a group within operations. And Domino has a lot of different departments. We're not just about research, we're not just about development or chemicals. We're also heavily into looking after our people. There's a big HR department, so if you're a people person, and that's something that draws you. There's some opportunity within Domino. We have purchasing departments, we've got material planners, we've got information technology, and as touched upon by some of the previous speakers, also got software engineering. Again, we've got chemists who have got doctorates within Domino, and some of them have joined the company as young people and have developed and grown within Domino. It's fair to say Domino boasts a large staff retention, where I've got a team of 6 people and 3 of those have been there longer than 20 years. They haven't been with me per se for 20 years, but they've moved around the business. They've had opportunities given to them. They've performed well, and so it's a good company to work for. I've been there 10 years myself, and I look after supplier quality. So with our organisation, we have around 150 suppliers. Again, they're global. So if you've got language skills, if you've got people skills, you can develop a career where you can work in different regions. You can work with people from different cultures, different backgrounds, be it in engineering, in software, or in any other department. We were purchased by a brother of Japan some 5 years ago. And since then, we've begun to grow and develop more product. We liaise more now with Japan. We've got heavy influence in India and also China, as our manufacturing plants. And we've had a record few years, even through COVID, while it looked a bit rough for us. I think with a lot of good strategy and thinking, we managed to pull through. And at the end of, I think, the COVID period, we did have a record quarter and a record year. So it's an exciting place to work. As for entering into Domino, that there are different ways of coming in. We use recruiters. We use LinkedIn. Our HR team are very proactive in looking on LinkedIn to see if there are people out there looking for positions. And if you move to the next slide, Tarek, again, it's another people-focused slide. We've got apprenticeship schemes which have been touched upon earlier, where you can come in at NVQ level, you can come in after A level. We also operate the apprenticeship scheme where you can learn and earn, and also have your degree paid for. So as it's mentioned, that sometimes the burden of getting a degree through university can be costly. Coming through an apprenticeship scheme, it helps alleviate that. We've got a number of career development programs within Domino, so we look to develop the skill within the teams. People that want to move on in careers, we support that, not only by internal programs, but we pay for them to go to college. We pay for them to be part of various institutes around the UK and the world. So yeah, the company does support the people, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've got such a high staff retention. Benefits, obviously there's a lot of us there, so we do have a very active social club. It was silenced a little because of COVID, but there are social events that are not only for the employees but also for the family as well. Trips to London, trips to mainland Europe. I'm not allowed to mention the whiskey tasting, but there are other educational trips that the company puts on. We've got flexible working options there. We recognise families need time and they need flexibility, so the company offers that. Team events, and as I said, they're much more. I've got to promote that we've got an open day, and that's on Wednesday the 14th of September. So it's welcoming people from around the area and also around UK. If anyone wants to come on site and see how we operate, get to meet the teams, get to see how the products are made, that's quite exciting. If anybody needs any information, I'm sure they can pick that up through Tarek, or Alicia's kindly allowed me to put her email address at the bottom there, and she heads up our HR for the operations team at Cambridge. So I think that probably concludes. I've tried to keep it short and sweet, but hopefully it was of interest.
Thank you very much. No, that was a really interesting example of a local company, and that we want to do much more to make people aware of what's available in the area. So that's very, very useful. Thank you very much for that. And then finally, I'd like to invite Lorraine and Bryony. We are over time, but I'm going to give you the kind of last. We probably want to have time for discussion or questions if we want to finish at 7. But you're going to cover quite a big area, and you're a very, very important employer right next door to Long Road as well. So again, another double act. So welcome to you both, and over to you guys.
Hi Tarek, thank you for inviting us. We'll keep it short and sweet. We've got all the information on the slides. I'm Lorraine Augustus, and I'm the Health and Care Academy lead at Cambridge and Peterborough Integrated Care Systems. I'm not just at Addenbrooke's, I am through Cambridgeshire and Peterborough and working on a project called Building Capacity to the Care.
Hi everyone, I'm Bryony. I'm the Health and Care Academy Coordinator. So we thought we'd just jump straight in. So I'm going to start by talking about our Senior Academy. So this is an e-learning program we have created for students aged 16 to 18 in education. This academy consists of 12 modules that are 2 to 3 hours long, and each of these cover different topics. We cover clinical and non-clinical roles with pre-recorded insight talks from speakers across health and care organisations in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. So as part of the academy, students complete a portfolio booklet to solidify their learning, and this also gives them some interactivity. And once they've completed all of the academy, they receive a nice pin badge in recognition of their achievement. And we also support them in finding work experience afterwards. So that's my quick whistle-stop tour of the Senior Academy. So Lorraine, do you want to talk about pre-employment?
So the second academy we've got is a pre-employment academy. This aims to educate people over the age of 18, looking for a second career, maybe unemployed due to COVID, school leaver, parent wanting to know a bit more about health and care. It's locally contextualised, and you work for a series of modules which is similar to the Senior Academy, but it's got the national and Cambridgeshire and Peterborough feel to it as well. Again, at the end, you get a certificate on completion. It's free of charge. You can work through at your own pace. We recommend it's 3 months, similar to the academy, because that's when you're employable by the end. And if you're applying for a job in health and care, this gives you some background knowledge, insight, and it's the research element towards your interviews or application process as well. Students work through their own pace. And they can access it anywhere on a tablet or on the computer or through a library, and at school with the Senior Academy with the school in their free periods. Next slide, please. Thank you, Tarek.
Okay, so on this slide is a bit of information about It's All Coming Together website, which is also where the academies are hosted. So we have a lot of information on our website, but we thought that we would just highlight a few features. So I'll start with the events calendar, which just highlights different events that are happening across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, including courses, webinars and more. And then just to note that basically all the events that we share are free to attend, so no charge. And we have color coded this calendar to make it easier to navigate. So we do also include events on there which are for staff already working in health and care. But if you wanted to see events which are open for anybody, you can see the ones that are highlighted in pink.
Many of our guest speakers have spoke about apprenticeships. So on our page, we've got an apprenticeship page. On our website, on the It's All Coming Together website. And on this page, we've got about the myths about apprenticeships and the differences between health and social care, so that you get an NHS feel and the health side of things, and you get the social care kind of element of apprenticeship. So it's all the organisations within the area. On the slides, it shows you all the organisations on the initial slides, but like Papworth, Cambridge, University Hospital Trust, everybody thinks of CUH, but there's also CPFT, which is Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Foundation Trust, where they deal with physical and mental health. So it covers everybody's apprenticeships as well. It's only brief on that page, but in the academies, we go into depth and it's more role specific. So we then talk about what you need for a role. So if you're becoming a nurse, we talk about an apprenticeship route through nursing. Or if you're becoming a doctor, the routes into being a doctor and work experience. So in the academies, we go into more depth and tell you about the next steps and how the apprenticeships differ from role to role, career to career.
Okay, and then we also have the resources page, which is just a dedicated page to useful resources for anyone that is looking for information about careers in health and care. So to name a few pieces that we have featured on there, we have the Learner Charter, we have a bit about the Prince's Trust, and a little bit more information about functional skills. So could we have the...
Just before we go on to the next slide, Bryony, we just had a question in the chat, and it was about apprenticeships and can you be a nurse or a midwife. At the moment, we don't offer midwifery through Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. There's only London that do that are starting to do the midwifery apprenticeship, but we do offer nursing apprenticeships. So there's 100 usually a year. I'm actually interviewing for the next round of apprenticeships for nursing next at the end of this month, so the 30th of July, and there's an advert out on the CUH page at the moment. You can apply for a nursing apprenticeship job. So if you've got children that are finishing school now and they're looking for a job, there is a nursing apprenticeship page. And also if they want to do the senior academy, they can come to us and we'll help them with the routes in and where you can apply and which pages to look at and the background information. The differences between a nurse and a midwife, or a nurse and an adult nurse, or a children's nurse, or a mental health nurse. So we'll help you with all that.
Yeah.
And we've added some useful links on there. So the Senior Academy, there's an email address for us. The Pre-Employment Academy is that it's all coming together website that Laura mentioned earlier on. Laura's actually part of our working group. So the combined authority, the local authorities, and everybody else in the region has input. So the major organisations, NHS and Care, have input into what we do. Exploring the website, that's the website address for the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough address. And the last links on this slide are the apprenticeship page and the work experience page for CUH. So that's Cambridge University Hospital Trust at Addenbrooke's. So that's a brief summary of the Health and Care Academy. We've also been asked to talk to you about roles in healthcare science. Brian and myself are not scientists, but we do know the basics, so we'll let you know. Anything we don't know, we'll come back to you if you have questions.
Yeah. So I'm just going to quickly go over what kind of roles you can find in these different branches. Again, like Lorraine said, we're not scientists, so we might get some of this mixed up. So I'm going to start with life sciences. So in this branch, you can find pathologists, people who work with genetics, and also reproductive science. With physiological sciences, in this branch, you can find roles in cardiac perfusion and audiology. With bioinformatics, you can find roles in 3 areas, including physical sciences, health informatics, and genomics. And then lastly, clinical engineering and medical physics. Some of the roles associated with this branch are medical engineering, imaging such as nuclear medicine, and clinical photography. And then that little diagram on the left just kind of summarizes all of them in a nice little infographic. So could we have the next slide, please?
The roles that Bryony just spoke about, you can find them in Cambridge University Hospital Trust. You can also find them in Papworth, the Royal Papworth Hospital, and you can also find them in North West Anglia Foundation Trust. So we have them across the county. The entry routes, there are different entry routes into healthcare science. So there is the traditional route. So you study the student or the person. So we do the learner. So we have the 18 plus or the 18 finished school. You become a healthcare scientist, you complete an accredited degree through the university traditional route, where it's self-funded and you do the course that the university offers. The entry requirements are different from different universities to universities, but you require at least 2 to 3 A levels or the equivalent level 3 qualifications to be a direct entry into university and apply through UCAS. The second option to go into healthcare science is apprenticeship, and we offer apprenticeships at Cambridge University Hospital Trust and at Royal Papworth Hospital, and they're usually at the level 3 level, and you start off as a lab technician and you work your way through to a healthcare science associate or a healthcare science practitioner. So we've added those on the slide because although you can only apply for level 4 and level 6 as an internal candidate, we'd hope the person comes in at a level 3 and we can train you up then to a level 4 or a level 6. We have got apprentices at the moment at CUH going through the different levels. They started off as a level 3, a lab technician, and now are going to do the level 6. So there is a progression route by doing the apprenticeship route. It is the same benefits as the others have mentioned today, about 20% off the job. They earn why they learn. They have the support of the team and the people around them, and the benefits of being an NHS employee as well. So there is that benefits from the apprenticeship route, but both routes have the same value in the degree. So the degree, when they do the level 6, both degrees are valued at the same level, and that's with all apprenticeships across the board, as Laura mentioned, I believe, in the first presentation. Can we go to the next slide, please, Tarek? We also have, this is our final slide. It's all the useful links again. So the healthcare careers page, and this is the NHS healthcare careers page. There's the CUH apprenticeship pages, and that also covers RPH as well, so the Royal Papworth Hospital, because we deal with the apprenticeships from CUH and the Royal Papworth, and then the Healthcare Science School, and that's Health Education England. Thank you for listening to us. If you have any questions, I think we have time. I don't know.
Yeah, we're running out of time. So we've only got 3 minutes,
Okay.
left before we're due to end. So we did overrun, so it's my fault because I underestimated the amount of time people would need to speak. But we are available. If any parents want to get in touch, if you have any questions, please do email us at careers@longroad.ac.uk, and we can either pass them on or refer you to information resources. And you will all get sent a PDF of all the slides as well. So all of that data and information will be available to you. We'll send that out to all parents. And we've also done, obviously recorded this session as well. We'll edit out the terrible bits and put in a few jokes, and then we'll send that on to you. We'll send you a link to access that as well. I just want to thank our wonderful speakers, because I know you've all got really busy lives, and you've taken time out of your evenings to come and present our parents with this information, which is really, really valuable, particularly at this time when we're helping young people to navigate the really complicated world of work that we're now facing. We have so many opportunities in this region, and I think it's really important that we try and get as much of that information out to people so they can make the right choices. So hopefully we can all keep in touch and invite you back to other events for next year as well. And please do tweet about it, post it on LinkedIn, mention the college, and that would be really appreciated as well. So thank you to all of our guests as well, all the parents that joined us today. Hopefully we've let you go, so you've got plenty of time to have dinner and have a fairly relaxing evening as well. So that's all that remains for me to say. I just wanted to finish off by promoting our careers fair tomorrow, which is for current students. So all of you parents that have young people that are considering whether or not to, still not decided what they want to do, they can come to our careers fair tomorrow. We've got about 35 companies, so do encourage them to do that. And then also, finally, we do have a feedback form. So if any of you are still here, you can scan that QR code and fill out a short feedback form. And if you also want to come and do careers work with us, if you're an employer and if you want to promote your particular jobs or whatever, you can fill in your details on that form and get in touch with us, and we will invite you to various things and do classroom talks and workplace visits, all of those other things as well. So you will get this later, so you don't have to do it straight away, but if you can, that would be wonderful. Do say nice things about me and Emma as well. Not trying to influence you in any way. So thank you very much, and hope you all have a good evening and good night.
Cool. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.